So, good morning, everyone. My name is Erik Hardouin. I'm from Orange, where I'm in charge of the research on networks and infrastructures. And so it's my pleasure to welcome you and the panelists in the last panel of this EuCNC 2023 conference. So this panel is on the research challenges and opportunities for 6G. And I will start by introducing the panelists. So, Mitch Tseng is a research consultant at the Industrial Technology Research Institute, I3, in Taiwan. Yep. And he's also with the Next G Alliance in the US, where he's the vice chair of the Applications Working Group. Yes. He has a long experience in standardization from 2G, also in 3G. And more recently, Mitch, you had a particular interest in industrial IoT and ITS. We have next Amina Boubendir, who is the head of research and standardization strategy at Airbus Defense and Space. And in her role, she covers a wide range of topics, including 5G and 6G networks, space and satellite communications, aerial connectivity platforms, military communication, AI, and quantum computing. So quite a broad scope. Amina represents Airbus at the European 6G Industry Association, and she is also a member of the advisory board of EXA-X1 and EXA-X2. Egon is the director of the Huawei's Munich Research Center. Egon has more than 40 years of experience in mobile communication, including research, spectrum, prototyping, standardization, and of course, national and international collaborations. Egon is representing Huawei in the board of Network Europe and also at the board of the 6G IA. And Egon has been strongly engaged in research and prototyping for 4G and 5G, and particularly in 5G PPP projects. Marja, Matinmikko-Blue, is a research director of the Infotech Institute and director of the Sustainability and Regulation at the 6G flagship at the University of Oulu. And you are also adjunct professor in spectrum management at the University of Oulu. So Marja has been conducting multidisciplinary research into the technical, business, and regulatory aspects of future mobile communication systems for more than 20 years, and she is also involved in ITU standardization. And Erik is a senior expert in radio access technologies at Ericsson Research. He had a long experience in the development of wireless access technologies since 3G, with a significant impact on 3GPP standards. So Erik is the co-author of multiple books on wireless communications. And last year, you were awarded the Ericsson Lifetime Achievement Award for your contributions to wireless communication. So I'm very happy to moderate this panel, also because for various reasons, it happened that I know each of the panelists, because we have worked together in different projects, organizations, or even company. Also this panel is, the panelists represent quite diverse industries or academia, also different regions of the world and different expertises. So it will be a very interesting discussion. And also because this is the last panel of the conference, it's also the last chance for you guys to ask the questions you may still have, and you may still have after this week of intense discussions and presentations and the exchange of ideas. So my plan is to kick off the discussions with some questions, and then we will open the floor for questions from the audience. So to start, let's take maybe a step back and start with a very general question. Do we actually need a 6G? And if so, why? Who wants to start? Erik. And let's go in the order of the...
It's okay? Can you hear it? Yeah. If I say no, I would need like 10 bodyguards to get out of this room alive. Could I generalize the question somewhat? Because I've been, for quite a long time, I've been a little bit kind of ambivalent to this word, new generation. But if you have the question, do we need to continue and enhance our wireless access solutions? The answer is absolutely yes, and we'll have to do it way beyond 2030 as well. Do we need to call it 6G? In principle, not. But I'm quite sure all my experience tells me that someone will call something 6G. And then I rather see that the thing we call 6G in the end will be the kind of following what we have 3G, 4G, 5G in the 3GPP context, etc., so that we ensure that we get kind of smooth evolution between these generations. So from that point, I think, I mean, the fundamental answer, we will have 6G. It doesn't matter if we need it or not. I think we will need to continue evolve and enhance our systems, and it's very good if we call it 6G.
Marja, what's your perspective on this?
I think we are the ones to blame that we started to use that word very early on, 5 years ago in 2018, when the Finnish 6G flagship started. And at that time, appointed by the Academy of Finland as the world's first 6G R&D program. And I remember it was really, really challenging at that time that are we too early to even talk about that? And I remember that then in 2019, when we had the first 6G summit in Levi, where many of you came, and then we started to talk about that. All the stakeholders there started to use that term in 2019 for the first time. So I think we as the community started to use the term then. Do we need it? I think we need evolution. I think we need new systems. And I think it will be the next one, is 6G.
Egon.
Yes, so maybe my impression is maybe I have started from 2G to now to 6G, and each cycle is 10 years, and 10 years is a long time for innovation, and also the people are changing, and also the business is changing, the economy is changing, and we have to make some innovative ideas, and that can we do with the next generation. So this means we are waiting 10 years, and in 10 years then we have the next innovation step, which we now see maybe to perform also to improve the current features like latency, like reliability, like maybe a better performance, reliability, to improve it. And now we have also new features, like we saw it during the keynote speak, integrated sensing and communication. And then AI is very hyped for the time being. Now we have to, because 5G has no interface for artificial intelligence, so we need a new interfaces for artificial intelligence. Then another topic is what we have generated in 5G. So we discussed the vertical industry, the integrated vertical industry. And then in Germany, we have the non-public licensing. And then we have created a non-public network. But this non-public network is approximately the same like a public network. They have a full core network that is too expensive for campus network. So we have to look how we can improve the non-public networking, the element to make it cheaper and not to all features which you have in the public network. So this is, for example, an improvement. And then I'm very exciting what we have heard in the morning about, and also last time, about non-terrestrial networking. Non-terrestrial networking is maybe it's a word for a lot of things, for drones, for hubs, and also for maybe, yes, and also for satellite. And then most of the people think about very low Earth orbit, that you have a lot of shoebox, which is called a satellite, which has a survival time of around 5 years. And now I want to see if each operator will have his own NTN, or will we have maybe to go and paradigm changing with NTN, that we are seeing in which form we want to share the NTN, that we have one NTN network around the world, and will we share this with each operator? Yes, that is a topic what is very interesting for the next 10 years or 15 years, in which form we can reach each person in the world. Maybe the slogan of Orange is connect the unconnected person, so that is NTN can do it. And I think we need it, and NTN is very hot topic. Okay, that is I think we need it, and we should do it, and we should make a global standard.
Thank you, Egon. Amina.
It's so tempting to jump on the NTN topic, but if we stick to the first quite philosophical question on if we need 6G, it's not a yes or no answer or question. We definitely need to develop it. It has been said that we definitely need to develop technology, continue to develop technology for our lives as human beings. Calling it 6G or anything else doesn't matter. AI is probably not a network technology on itself, but still we rely on it for networks and for many other applications. It has 5G, as you said, has opened the door to vertical markets to optimize or enhance their own industries, their own business. Probably 6G will do this much bigger, with the verticals being more familiar to how they can use the networks for their own business. The other thing is that, okay, we know we have this expertise to develop mobile networks. We will have no problem to produce a new generation of networks. So we have this expertise, and we have already identified the gaps in 5G and previous generations. But what we probably can introduce as early as possible, and we're probably already doing this, is to introduce external factors coming from either climate change impacts that are not really studied by network engineers or computer science engineers, social ways of living, of using technology, or maybe just transportation. The regions, the unbalanced word is already a scheme to say, okay, we will derive the use of networks and applications will be derived according to the ways of living of each population or people in different regions. So we need to rely maybe on studies that are already made on a global level or regional, and then try to introduce these as we're not experts and see how this should change our perspective on how we should build networks. So this introduction is already here because we've seen through the conference that, okay, sustainability, we're dealing with experts on energy consumption or on sources of energy, alternative sources of energy, etc. But maybe wherever 6G or not, we should be more open as a community to other communities to build a new generation.
Thank you, Amina. Mitch, what's your perspective?
Okay, thank you, Erik. Yeah, indeed, when our panelists start talking, I start kind of thinking about, yes, actually this is how we kind of gradually evolved, right? And I think being a stay a lot, spend a lot of time in the United States, and also I live in Texas, we actually looking for the forward thinking and then try to get in the future, and hopefully we'll have a better future. So when we have this discussion about this 5G and 6G, we really didn't tangle on these numbers, right, at the very beginning. Just like, for example, this is my first time to Sweden, right? And when I landed, and then last weekend, the weather was so beautiful. So when I first met Erik, I said, is the weather in Gothenburg or in Sweden is always like this? Yes. And Erik just said, yes, right? So, and then also, in addition to the magical part, 2 days ago, I was sitting in the audience, and then I joined this dialogue with industrial leaders, our esteemed industrial leaders, and then make a presentation. I said, when I grow up, I want to be like Erik. Right, so we can join the table over here. But the truth is, in America, we're kind of trying to dreaming about what's in the future, And also, we also need to take a most practical approach, that is the industry also need to get involved. We know that the better we are doing, the more advanced technology, will provide more convenience to us. And then hopefully it will also bring out more business opportunities. And like I remember yesterday when Dr. Rappaport, when he made a presentation, and he got 80 slides in 1 hour. It's amazing, 80 slides. But one line I specifically remember. What is the killer application for 5G? What is the killer application for 5G? The answer from his view is 6G. Indeed, in America, like in NGA, we didn't really spend much time on this network architecture, but we do know that in the future, we are expecting some new technology, AI native networks, joint communication and sensing, RS, that reconfigurable intelligent surfaces, right? And then all the millimeter wave will become big, everything, we know that. But we're hoping that by doing that, and then we say, okay, we want to deliver the whole thing in the 6G era. this create a pool for the industry. And on the other hand, we also try to share with our audience, in the future, there will be a brand new digital world experience. The digital world experience will make your life much more convenient. And then in the future, the 6G systems will get kind of like you're living in it, but you just don't feel it, but you got all the convenience out of that. So yes, we need 6G.
Thank you. So Mitch, you have a kind of unique characteristic here because you have the Taiwan perspective, you have the US perspective, you have spent 1 week here in Europe.
Yep.
So and then my next question, and then we will start with you, is what is the level of alignment that you perceive between the research which is being done in different regions, and what should we do to maximize the chance that in the end we come up with a single common standard for 6G?
This is actually a great question. And this week I also got a chance to visit a lot of colleagues, mainly from Europe, and to share the view, because I'm mostly familiar with the view from Americas. And also, I also have a very good connection with our colleagues in Taiwan, Japan, and Korea. So I also get a very good European view. And then there are some journalists from Singapore, they're also looking into that part as well. Then the question is, we always want to drive for something that's most convenient and consistent and resilient for us to move forward. And that means it's actually standards. And we're so used to that from 2G, 3G, 4G, and now we're into the 5G, 6G era. Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I started my standard career like Egon, 2G. Right? I'm working on the CDMA side, the CDMA in the Americas. And then when we do these standards, we know we want to ensure the interoperability and the conformance testing. So that's two key things we drove standards. But now, it's kind of interesting because once we go to 5G, and I missed that part totally, so if you don't like 5G, don't blame it on me. Okay, I didn't work on that part. But I'm start thinking about like, are we going to, will we have a kind of unified standard for the future for 6G or not? Right? That's kind of challenging because in a way, because I'm a standard professional, I would like to see it happen. I would like to see it happen. But on the other hand, I'm also seeing that the network structure is kind of changing because when we have 2G or 3G, we have these macro cells. Macro cells, typically is in America, we call it 3 to 5 mile cell. And then, but when we go to, like I say, the next generation, we're moving toward a higher frequency band, millimeter wave. All of a sudden, the cell size shrink to 100. So will that kind of cause any kind of challenges for our future when we try to define the standards? I'm not quite sure yet. And also, interesting enough, this week I also heard some people say we may not need or we may not have a common standard for 6G. So right now, actually, in a way, from professionals' viewpoint, yes, I'd like to see a common standards, and by having the people from the United States, like myself and my colleagues in Taiwan, in Asia, and work with our colleagues in Europe. Through the dialogues, that's how we kind of synchronize our thoughts, right? And that would be the way I'm looking into it. But whether, would that be a common standard or not, my position right now is that I'm hoping that we will have it, but how do we do that? How we ask for other panels to chip in on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Mitch. Amina.
I'm also a strong believer of standards and the need of in having systems that are interoperable. And this probably comes from the fact that I have a mobile industry background. But when you open up, as I did, to the satellite industry, this boundaries that we have for the mobile networks, for the terrestrial networks, does not really exist in the air or space, maybe more in space communications. Any satellite operator can cover any part of the Earth he desires, as far as he has clients to do this, asking him to do this. So having standards, we're already developing, so the development that we are doing already for 6G, and we're already doing standardization. So there's in 3GPP, the work program for release 19 and release 20 are already having like big directions, and next week is a very big meeting to define 5G NTN work program for release 19. So we're already working on this. So, and not only Europe, so it's 3GPP, so everyone is there. So that's already happening. But when we think as well, we've talked about the imbalances we have in the world. If we think, because we're also saying that 6G should be global, allowing at least for global coverage, and terrestrial networks and non-terrestrial networks are complementary to each other, then we also should think of the specificities of each one. And maybe as a community here, and I really would like to see other players from the satellite industry come in and join in research rather than just standardization, because they probably now get an awareness of this importance. But it's happening at 3GPP, which is majorly a mobile industry organization. So these, at least, so if we take these imbalances, we produce a 6G from 3GPP, having satellite industry collaborating with the mobile industry and producing a standard architecture, interfaces, and all the specifications. Probably we are also imposing to developing countries something they're not ready for. And while we are targeting inclusion, probably we will be doing the other effect. Maybe there is no really a good answer for that than inviting the players to discuss and see what are the market perspectives, the gap for the satellite industry to catch up on the virtualization, on the flexibility that mobile networks are starting to have with 5G, and even the type of use cases. The type of use cases are not really not the same. With L and S bands for satellite, you can do very small data rate use cases, and KUK and in LEO does not even exist. We don't know how to do this today. And all existing satellites are just transparent, just relaying the signal, and the regenerative generation of satellites is being studied in 3GPP and in research, but it's not there yet. So there is, in the race, we're aware that we need to merge, we have to have these conversions, but the satellite industry is not ready yet. The ones that can be ready is probably, I'm no marketing here, probably OneWeb, because they are new and they are like really a software-oriented LEO network operator, but they don't have any 5G. It's just satellite, transparent satellite LEO constellation, which is not really standard. There is no standards for satellite networks, and the gap in terms of standards and in terms of flexibility in the network architectures themselves is still behind the mobile networks. So yes for standards, but there is a big collaboration effort to be made, and also what is the impact on the different regions. So if we're imposing a new fully standard solution, does this really meet the usage and the characteristics of the different regions and populations that the 6G should cover?
Thank you, Amina. Egon.
Yes, maybe we should have one global 6G standard, because we can have only success with one standard which can buy everybody, and we can serve a mass market. If we not serve a mass market, then the equipment will be very expensive, because for each region we have to pay something on top. And the other topic is, like, Airbus is a good example. They produce airplanes which can start and land at each location in the world. So this means they need also a global standard from the vertical industry. If they have no global standard for the verticals, then they must change every time during fly their equipment. Maybe that is not good. And I think we have started with the research project. That is a good platform to make cooperation between a lot of companies, and to promote, maybe I want to say, a pre-standardization topic. And we're also doing this in the EU, some cooperation with US, with Japan and Korea, maybe in the future also with China, in order to have a common alignment. And this platform, research platform, is a good opportunity to define the same use cases or to align the use cases, to align the enabled technology, and also to go in a common standardization project. So why is it? Yes, we need it, and I hope that we can do. But in the last time we heard from the European Commission, also from some national European countries, about technology sovereignty. I don't know in which form technology sovereignty will influence the standard.
Yep.
That I don't know how they want to do it. If they want to do, okay, that is a European technology that must be in the standard, but at the end of the day, the members of the standardization agreement will define what is the standard. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how that will come, how that will influence the standard, the technology sovereignty. Yep. But at the end, we have to do this for the citizens, for the people which live around, in order to make their life better with the new 6E standard.
Yep.
Thank you, Egon. Marja.
There were two parts in your question, the research part and then the 6E standard part. And since I come from the research community, the research community is global. So we use the same databases to search for publications. So somebody does something in a place and publishes it, then it's available usually globally. So it's built on these global collaborations. In Oulu, South Africa, wherever you are, we still build on the same premises. So research is global, and the developments are global. The whole basis of mobile cellular systems is global operations, global roaming. You can use the same devices in different places. The challenges we've seen there is the spectrum part, that if it's very fragmented, then the piece of hardware does not work. But still it primarily works quite well. Then the standards process, it's been through the ITU for several generations now in the IMT, International Mobile Telecommunications Systems. And the same process is ongoing for the 6G part, and the requirements definition starts next year. So any proposal, any technology proposal that fulfills those requirements will become part of this IMT family. So the mobile industry, cellular industry definitely will make a standard proposal. The 3GPP will do that. But nothing can prevent any other to submit their proposal. In the IMT 2020 process, which is the 5G process, there are two technologies accepted as part of that. One is the 5G, and then there's another EuCNC standard. And smaller companies like a Finnish SME was very active there, and they have a global market now for their solutions. So the window is there. But of course, the dominant one is the one that comes from the cellular industry. And it remains to be seen what happens in this 6G. We don't know the requirements to be fulfilled yet. They'll be defined in the coming years, but nothing stops other organizations, other standards bodies to submit their own proposals.
Thank you, Marja. Erik.
Yeah, on both your topics, you said that we are, seems like globally aligned on the research. And that's true. I mean, everyone talks about sub-terahertz and 7 to 15 gigahertz and sensing, of course, and a lot of AI and a little bit of reconfigurable intelligent surfaces. That's, of course, very good if we are all very clever and have come up with these ideas independent of each other. Sometimes what scares me a little bit what you hinted. I mean, we have the same database, so we listen to each other. So a little bit, I miss actually that we don't have some research people that go in a very much different direction, because maybe we are missing something because we are so keen on kind of converging early, and we are so afraid that, Huawei talks about this, and we also have to talk about that, etc. So that's one thing. About the global standard, of course, when for us, global standard is exceptionally important. I mean, that's kind of, and we've seen that because it gives you a big market, and it can lower the cost of devices, and operators will know what technology to choose. At the same time, historically, in some sense, we have had a really global standard for many generations. I mean, even GSM was a global standard. But at least originally, we have had kind of a lot of competing technologies. We had that, obviously, for 2G. For 3G, definitely, we had 3GPP and 3GPP2. For 4G, we had at least WiMAX. Mm-hmm. For 5G, we were a little bit missing that, actually. At least we didn't have that mentality that we have a competitor. And that kind of competing technologies are actually extremely useful or beneficial, I think, because it really makes us work very hard because we are competing with someone. I think that was actually somewhat a problem with 5G, that we didn't feel that we have a competitor technology. The problem we have right now, I guess, is that the risk of actually starting to get divergence is no longer that we have kind of competing technologies that are competing commercially with each other. We have kind of political and other aspects, so that's kind of a new aspect here, and of course nothing that I can really talk about because I'm way over my pay grade. But I think the only thing we can do there is really to explain to all the politicians and policymakers all the benefits we get actually by having a global standard. It doesn't really matter if we have kind of different political views on different things. I mean, so I think that's the only thing we can do there is really to try to convince them that the importance of it, and also, of course, we have to deliver technology in time. I think that's the other thing. But otherwise, kind of, in some sense, competing technologies that compete commercially, have been quite useful because it really put the pressure on us.
Yep. Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Erik, I think that I sense that through our colleagues from Europe. I know that it seems like, we all kind of violently agree that we need to have a standard for the future. But then another area to observe is that when we want to talk about this future experience, if that's from the end user's perspective, right? I know that from vendor's perspective, we want this, make sure the product is consistent and is globally can be used. So naturally, we say we want a standard. But from the end user's perspective, when they look into the future, they're focusing on what can I do from the application level. And normally, we kind of keep it as a vacuum. We really don't talk too much about it. But now this week, I also learned that we need to focus on the end-to-end and the vertical. So with this kind of new development, we may need to also define some kind of new form of standards compared with just traditionally just part of the 7-layer structure for that. Yeah, thank you.
I have one additional remark. Maybe we should also think about now, we have for the end user perspective, we saw 5G, maybe, but now for 6G, we have also want to bring the verticals into the board. Yes. And they want to sell the product globally. Yeah. Not only in Europe for 350 citizens or for China for 1.3 billion, they want to sell it globally. And if we have not the responsibility, we should say, okay, we want to have a mass market and we should also save our vertical industry. They must have the global market in order that they can apply very successful 6G and the vertical integration. And if not, then we can also make not the digital transformation and the combination between cyber world and physical world. That will not happen because the sensors will become too expensive. Mm-hmm. So that is, if we not have a global standard, then I think then we're coming back to the years before the 90s, because in the 90s we have started the globalization, and that was a success model.
Yes.
I would like to take it from these last sentences and the fact that we need to deliver solutions in a timely manner. When there are technologies, like when you invest, maybe the US has more this culture than Europe. Mm-hmm. You invest in technology not only financially, but you if you believe in the technology and have the means to do it, you develop it, and then the adoption comes later. And as we've already seen, we don't really expect all the usages that will be done, will be made out of technology developments that we can produce as researchers and engineers. And the fact that these solutions often ahead of the maybe 80% of the ecosystem are not standard. They're not standardized. And one example it's not to talk about Elon Musk again, but one example is Starlink. And this is a constellation that is working over the world, and it has been massively used by, even though it's American, it has been used for governmental and military communications in Europe, because it was ready. Yeah. So if the cycle for research on standard, as we're used to do it, is long compared to any other usage that might just appear, then we can question ourselves, is this theoretical process, okay, we still can do it, but maybe taking benefits of what is already there, even if it's not standard. So we can probably collaborate with Starlink or OneWeb or any other existing global LEO constellation and say, hey, how can I onboard a 5G antenna on your already launched satellites without building others? Well, that's probably, I'll have trouble saying that. Without any new satellites being built with new antennas and being thrusted and waiting maybe 7 years for the thrust. So I would question the time, the process, the fact that we cannot really predict the use and the applications, crisis or not. Yeah, and the competition. And you mentioned that as well. The competition, the worldwide competition. So the first to do it is the first to get the first part of the market.
Thank you to all the panelists. So at this time, I would like to open the floor for questions from the audience. So there are microphones in the alleys, so please don't hesitate to come up and ask questions if you have any.
No, it's better. It's coming. Right.
There you go.
Yes, please.
Yeah, great. Normally, I'll be the one there to raise my hand at first, so now we got a gentleman. That's good.
Thank you very much. I'm Luca Valcarenghi from Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna in Italy. It was an interesting set of question and answer that we had, but I have a question specifically related to the missing competitors for 5G. What about Wi-Fi and the new generation of Wi-Fi in competition with 5G private networks? Do you have any thought about it? Thank you.
Yeah, when I talk to a photo, when I say a lack of competitors, I didn't mean I don't lack competitors like Huawei and Nokia. And what I meant really is when we do the kind of early standardization, then it was not having. At least I felt we didn't have the same kind of technology competition we had with 3GPP2 and WiMAX, in the sense that they were very much addressing, or they were addressing this very 3GPP2 was essentially addressing exactly the same kind of use case that we were addressing when we did 3G, and WiMAX was quite close to us when we did 4G. Wi-Fi is, of course, a competitor on. Wi-Fi technology is, of course, a competitor in certain areas where also there are some kind of border regions where Wi-Fi and 5G technologies are kind of meeting each other. But I don't think that was not really felt when we did kind of early 5G standardization, in the sense that, I mean, when people doing 5G, it was really kind of still mainly at that stage, people had in mind mainly kind of normal cellular deployment. But clearly there are, but that's still more now on the market side, kind of areas where Wi-Fi and 5G technologies are kind of meeting each other.
Marja.
And there are different solutions to solve certain problems, like covering small areas. So definitely there are different solutions. And it's interesting to see, looking at this business part and the ecosystem part, that many of the companies are involved in both businesses. So it's not as straightforward as one is competing with another, because the companies may have business in both of them.
Egon?
Yes, maybe if you're using for the vertical industry, I think that is what you mentioned, then you can use all the advantages of the cellular mobile system. You can use equalizing, you can use authentication, all the features you can use. So that means, and also you can use the mass market, that you can make it more cheaper. So that is, in this case, we should go. And also the range is longer, and you can go outside if you have roaming between the unlicensed and the licensed frequencies, then you can use the same hardware with some changing of the software. So that is a big advantage. Also the car makers now, they moved from the Wi-Fi application now to the cellular system, or that is better based on the range. And And do you get every 10 years a new system, which is an upgrade of the old system? So this means you also can use it. So maybe you have a guarantee that you have a long life, long life of the equipment.
So just quickly, I've been asked this kind of question a lot as well, Charluka. The thing is that when we are in the conventional network architecture, we have 3 to 5 miles, right? And then the Wi-Fi industry and the cellular industry, they kind of work in parallel with each other. But now when we enter this like a millimeter wave, when we start having, as you point out, private network or private-public network, then all of a sudden there's an overlap on this part. So that means from end user's perspective, we will have choices now. But the industry needs to focus on what do I do the best to attract my end users. In the cellular domain, in the private network, we talk about, we have a subscription, so we have built-in security, we have much more reliability, we have a better coverage, signal strength, and then we are using a licensed spectrum versus a unlicensed spectrum. So there are a lot of convenience or guaranteed for quality of service for users. But on the other hand, the challengers, they can come in with a most cost-effective way compared with the one we provided. So the actual question will be pushed back to the vendors. So how do you provide that? Thank you.
Many things have been said already, but I would just focus on the fact that the client just wants cost efficiency, and it has been said. And whatever the solution, as network providers, for the client is whether it fits their requirements, whether it fits their difficulties, usually design, portability, long time maintenance or not. So whether 5G, the competition maybe is not really, in my perspective, so that would be more the telco vendors, but if it's 5G, Wi-Fi, as soon as the performance is guaranteed, it's more of a cost and lifetime KPIs. And yeah, if you call it NPN or private or Wi-Fi or indoor, it's not really a problem for them. Sometimes they don't even want to talk about it.
Thank you.
So just one follow-up from me. I'm the moderator, but still I'm the boss, so I can also raise things. About this comparison between Wi-Fi and cellular, so you said basically that for some customers, it's provided that the performance is guaranteed, then that's the cost, that will be the driver. But can you guarantee the performance on a licensed spectrum? So, I mean, for some use cases, it doesn't really matter too much, but for some other cases, it does. And so that brings us also to one question I would need to address to the panel. It's about the trust that we need to have into the system. So trustworthiness has been one of the important new dimensions, which now is taken into account in the 6G vision. And it covers many things, but particularly the trust that the end users will have in the system. And it includes security, it includes also resilience, the fact that if there is a problem, then the service will still be there somehow, maybe degraded, but it will be there. And also the trust in the fact that maybe the data that you transfer over the system will not go in some maybe other directions than the one they are intended to. So privacy. So my question to you is, how can we guarantee all those dimensions into the future system?
Erik? I'm sorry, my question is strongly related to your question, so maybe I can ask first?
Yes, please. I mean, not first, but
I know. So
we can bundle the questions, sure.
I think you mentioned a very important point that the quality of service, might be one of the key difference between Wi-Fi and our cellular system. We're always arguing that, right? And in the 5G, no matter it's 5G or 6G, so we are always say we need not only eMBB, but also need a URLC. and other key performance metrics. But unfortunately, we are not touching about the pricing or the charging system. So I'm wondering why the operator, they have any incentive to do this kind of quality of service if we still continue to use the current the charging system to the customer. We only charge, for example, for 1 month. Oh no. For 10 euro, you can use 3 megabytes or 3 gigabytes. But that 3 gigabytes you can transmit within 10 seconds, or right? We don't guarantee any time latency about this volume of the data. We only charge for the volume, but not charging for the delay or quality of service. So I think we are missing the research of how to charge the future service. If this cannot be solved, I don't think the 5G and 6G, they have any promising, they can attract the customers. I think this is my question.
Thank you. So basically, you bring to the trustworthiness aspects, you bring the business dimension. What's the cost of trustworthiness somehow? Marja.
Yeah, I can start with this because it's a great point that you brought it up, that needs to be researched in 6G. So I fully support that we need to have this multidisciplinary approach in the 6G R&D. It's not just technology development. That is very important, but it also has the business side, the regulation-related components. So definitely pricing mechanisms and new pricing schemes are very important. Typically in engineering studies, we just make assumptions of those things that we are not investigating ourselves, like pricing. We just assume that there is a certain model behind it. But that definitely should be researched on its own, new pricing models, new business models for 6G.
Egon.
Yes, because with the standard, the customer here, the operator, has the possibility to to make the business model and to say, if I want to buy that, and he has a latency, then he can say, okay, if I do this with the revenue, then we have a customer which want to have very low latency and I want to have best effort. So that means the opportunity is there described in the standard. He can order that from the vendors and then he can do his business model. But for the time being, every operator is doing the same. He offered best effort for a special price, data volume or the monthly. But the opportunity exists there with the standard to have low latency, high latency or best effort and the data rate.
All right.
And coming to your question about how can we guarantee trustworthiness, and of course, as you say, trustworthiness it covers a lot of things, and it goes to kind of touching on the reliability, availability, and all that kind of things. And fundamentally, there is no magic wonder. I mean, it's a little bit like also this kind of, we should be sustainable in the future. It's not so that we come to a crossroad and then, okay, I take the right, to the left, okay, I took the sustainable road. Now I can relax because my system will be sustainable. If I take the right one, I'm kind of out of business. It's a road with a lot of small potholes everywhere, and we really have to keep an eye on every time. I mean, have these kind of things. How is this kind of? Can I trust this kind of thing I now introduce? Is this sustainable? I think it's much more kind of continuous hard work to ensure this. And of course, we can never guarantee anything, but it's definitely not so that it's kind of just few big decisions to make. I think we noticed that especially on this sustainability, and from our point, it's mainly been this kind of network energy consumption that. You think right, and then you make one mistake, and okay, then we got kind of lost quite a lot of things. So it's really keeping an eye on those kind of issues all the time. I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, to kind of follow on that Professor New's question, like about this cost factors, those part. If I remember correctly, the first operator in the world using this unlimited data is actually Hutchinson 3 around 2005 era. And then I was with Nokia at that time. When I look at that, I said, darn, how do we reverse this one? It's just like when I went to America, I like buffet, right? Once you go there, you pay one price, and you got everything over there. Now it's all accumulated over here. And that's kind of irreversible in many cases. However, with that kind of structure, we also encourage the users, they're just streaming whenever they can. They start using a lot of stuff to indirectly, it creates a lot of consumption on the energy. energy. And then, but that one now we also kind of got into this UN development goals, long-term sustainability development goals. So we know that, yeah, we need to also be a more responsible citizen, right? I mean, citizen means from our industry. So one way to do that is that in order to do that, we kind of position ourselves as the 6G or our wireless community is a responsible and sensible community. And we will take our lead to do this so that we kind of build up the trust from our end users and the operators. And that's actually, to me, is very important because if you look at the auto industry, right, wireless industry has been a long time we try to work with the auto industry. But we have some success, but probably not as successful as we want to be. And part of that is because we didn't listen to the auto industry carefully enough, in my observation. In the wireless communications, we have one generation every 10 years, right? And so that means if in the car's lifespan, which is typically 13 years, there will be some kind of burden for the auto vendors. So rather to kind of just force whatever we want to do over here, maybe one way to think about is, that's in addition to the reliability of those parts, we also listen to our end users more to regain the trust. Thank you.
I think there were two hidden questions, and maybe to the second one, and I will come back to yours, Erik, is there are in research enablers. I really believe virtualization and softwareization are enablers to change the customer-vendor relationship. So the way a user or a B2B client can ask for a service, if the provider has undergo the digital transition and has catalogs of their products and are able to shape different services to have this differentiation in services, then should be able to have the right APIs towards the client so they can change their mind about the service they asked, and also then the SLA. So I really believe in the dynamic SLA model, which there are plenty of things in research, very nice approaches, but maybe the implementation is not keeping up with the speed of research sometimes. So we just stick to legacy CRM, very simple, maybe chatbots or intent-based application APIs that allow a bit of reconfiguration, a bit of change, for example, but not really this dynamicity, even though we will be maybe not really today in 5G, but with the future developments, we'll be able really to offer, because we will have this flexibility end-to-end from at least from the mobile network perspective. Not to mention the satellite communication networks, which is not even virtualized. And so associated to that, and because we're talking about OSS/BSS or the management level, we have the FCAPs and the other is the security aspect. And if I'm supposed to manage the security aspect, I'm also supposed to either charge or include it in my SLA compliance process or monitoring. And that's where trustworthiness, this is just, in my perspective, just a very small part of trustworthiness. So that's the client trusting that the service that the network provider is providing can include this level of security. But if I take it from another perspective, and maybe the one from sovereignty, and we've saying that we can probably use solutions that are made elsewhere and they're not standards, and use them because they're available and performant. I really like the definition of we can trust a system that we can only control. Yep. If we don't control any part or component of a system, we cannot really fully trust it. So either add in wraps, whatever is the nature of these wrap APIs, or management approaches or AI algorithms to trust a component of a system or a system as it's as in a whole. That would rely as well on the sovereignty. And I would link it as well to the capacity to invest in technology. So being a pioneer in technology would give us a an advanced position in trustworthiness because we know the technology, and we know how to, we master the technology, we master the tools that will control it and implement it. So we trust our systems to make the users or our clients trust us as a provider. So it is hidden. There are plenty of technical parameters that are hidden under trustworthiness, but I would vaguely put it in two categories: the relationship between the provider and the user, and the relationship of the provider with its own managed systems.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Hello, this is T.Y. Chen, 5T Tech from Taiwan. So we all know that the 5G FR2, that's the lack of the, like the killer applications so far. So that's why it's not popular at this moment. So we are discussing about the 6G applications. People are discussing about the V2X. That's the vehicle would be, like a giant mobile devices in the world. So how do you think about that? Well, how soon it will happen? Where will it be happened? And in terms of your point of view, if it must be a trend, how to, make some kind of standardizations, or maybe involved with the OEM company like the automobile OEM like Mercedes, kind of these companies will be joining in to discuss such kind of a big opportunity for the 6G. Thank you.
I'm not really sure I fully understand the question. I mean, I never really understood what's so special with this V2X. Actually, I mean, you said that you work with 2G. I actually worked with 1G when I was a kid because my father was doing NMT systems. And I mean, the first mobile telephone systems, there was only V2X because the mobile phones were only in the car. So I never really understood what the kind of, are you talking about some new kind of V2X, or is it just kind of that you have a device in your car? Because we already have that, and we've had that all the time. So I can't see that V2X would be kind of a killer application for 6G because it's been there all the time. And then we have this kind of V2V, of course, which is more kind of special case of device communication. That will probably have a 6G, but you especially talk about V2X. So could you kind of elaborate a little bit what was the key point?
That's an killer application, that's what it means is, people think about the autonomous drivings, especially for the level 5. So that's when your car or your mobile devices cannot reach for the ground 5G connections. Yep. So maybe you need the NTN or satellite communication for the vehicles. But at this moment, people cannot immediately, if you can use the cell phone devices, direct connect to the satellite communications. I not mean for satellite IoT. So that's people think about if you need a bigger antenna or the heavy devices, that should be put on the car. It's not on your cell phone. So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, now I think I understand the question better now. It's like talking about these connected vehicles. Because in 6G in the future, we talk about autonomous in many ways. Then how do we guarantee the link over there? So is it just like conventional V2V communication, and then maybe put on a cell condition that we can connect to the bigger cell size? Or like as gentleman D2, you probably also need some NTN connections. Yeah.
But to me that seems to be kind of a more one case of this more general thing that we say, coming a little bit back to one aspect is maybe this trustworthiness, that it should always be available. I mean, to me, I believe that in the long term, having connectivity should be kind of as ubiquitous as air. If I go out of this building, I'm quite sure that there's air outside there. If I go out of this building, I'm sure that there's connectivity there as well. But I mean, if I go out of my small cabin up in the Swedish mountains, maybe there is no coverage. And in the future, I think coverage we should be guaranteed that there is coverage everywhere. It should be kind of, we shouldn't even doubt that there could not be coverage there. And maybe V2X is kind of a special case of that, but I think that's more general. And then, of course, satellite comes in as one possibility, and it's probably even a necessary possibility, a necessary thing in certain environments.
Yep. But from end users' perspective, they want to be connected all the time, like Docomo. The name brand is actually, I believe, is everywhere. Oh. Right? So that's why I think that in the future, the heterogeneous network will actually help on this. Sorry.
I wouldn't call it a killer application for one reason, that there is now obligation for all vehicles in Europe to integrate eCall and PNT. PNT is so positioning and navigation, and that would come from existing satellites. And eCalls would go through embedded SIM cards that are capable of making a phone call, emergency phone calls, either autonomous or non-autonomous vehicles. So it's more a safety application than a killer application. But that's the next market as well, I would call it. It's now we're just targeting communications on legacy terminals, mobile 3GPP terminals, satellite terminals, new terminals. MediaTek is doing a great job in this. New terminals that can connect to both satellites and mobile networks. So that's already in the pipe. But the new market and the new focus for the automotive industry is to discuss and provide all the requirements to both mobile and satellite providers. And I want to also add to this in maybe a longer term is urban mobility. We're already working on transportation using UAMs for it's really urban, so it can be using terrestrial networks there. It's just coming. It's not. There's no doubt. It's there. And Orange has been working on eCall and the obligation of putting SIM cards in the next future cars. So generation cars. So there's no doubt. It's there. It's coming, and it doesn't really need for the info and positioning. It doesn't really need big data rates. It can function with JO, so it's already there. But if we need more entertainment services on top of this, or I don't know, maybe some traffic information with images or anything like that can help driving or managing the traffic, that would maybe would require more bandwidth. But what's already there already allows a lot for V2X.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for offering this panel to speak about the research challenges. I would like to hear the panelists about the interoperability problem, because in the EuCNC we have seen different communities gathered here, like NTN, radio-based communication, photonics, fixed wireless. So at the end of the day, are we going to have like one interface gathering all these, or are we going to have heterogeneous products in 6G? What is the place of research regarding interoperability of all these technologies coming in 6G? Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to go first?
I can start that. It's a great question, because the whole idea in 6G was that it brings together different capabilities. The communication is combined with other sensing, location, and other things. So that is definitely a thing to investigate. But the answer to that is, I don't know. What is the feasible system? Because you're supposed to use these systems for multiple purposes, even more so in the future, tailored needs of the specific locations. So do you need to have all of those capabilities together in every solution that you sell? That's yet another part of this, when you bring together these different technological components. So there's a lot to do on that.
I have one question. No, one remark about photonic and fixed wireless access. Fixed wireless access is a special application of mobile radio. So maybe that will maybe they make themselves integration and testing. But with photonics, it's like a backhaul, and they will doing their own integration and testing, and maybe by 3GPP they will define the interface for the backhauling, and that is why I see no so big problems about that.
I really like.
And then for satellite, maybe that must be done by the 3GPP or by the vendors by themselves if they want to sell their product. So that is maybe that's my understanding.
Today it's under 3GPP, but maybe we can think of a new organization just to have this diversity in backgrounds. So of course, I think it links to one of the first questions on interoperability. But I like the fact that many 6G projects, so that's more in research, talking about network on networks. So we still want to build like a unified network, 6G network, integrated in different networks that have their own characteristics, their own capacities, their own technologies. So it's just, it doesn't mean there will be the same integration for all solutions or one big they're capable of doing. I really don't believe that it won't be cost efficient. It doesn't really mean anything. But the possibility of merging, I don't know, fixed wireless access with another technology, or having, we're talking about Wi-Fi, the fact that it is possible to combine them and manage it, have this integration and manage it, that one provider can manage the whole new network, composition of networks, that would require strong interoperability. It's huge work. It means that we should prepare the interfaces for all the segments or the technologies. Some of them will never get linked together. And I wanted to link to, so you said other technologies. I really didn't hear much in the conference about optics. So it is a basis for inter-satellite links, for big capacity use cases. So I would add this to your list and link it to a transport network that is already there.
Actually, to me, it's a billion-dollar question. But on the other hand, I tend to think it from a different angle. Is that really necessary that we need to unify those technologies or not? Or will the industry get a benefit because there are so many diversified technologies over there? I'm talking about this mainly because in my role in the NGA, I'm driving the applications. And when I'm trying to promote the application, I want the end users and the customers, the operators, they can get all the benefit out of that. And in order to do that, you see that now we are getting more and more vertical. For example, we have some this satellite companies. They have deployed a constellation, and then they think they have a vertical end. In between, they have a lot of technical innovations, but in the business model, they pretty much just stick to them, right? They should just stick to themselves. So in a way, we don't know if they kind of for or against the innovations. Probably more like a for innovations. But on the other hand, when I'm looking at practical applications, because I spend a lot of time working on the IoT. In IoT, one of the key features, one of the characteristics of IoT is that there's so many customization required. So that means if you try to unify some technology, and you end up like you need to do more customization at the end, that's probably counterproductive. So yeah, let's think about this, and then I think the answer is kind of very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, of course, will be a lot of different ways, access methods, etc., and they will have to work together. And either one solve that in standardization, one solve that in some kind of de facto way. I think one also sometimes need to kind of try to consider. I mean, what do we mean when we talk about 6G? I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger, and I mean, it's 6G, all type of connectivity we can think about, whether it's wireless, wireline, photonics, visible light communication. Now it's obviously also including sensing, so it's all kind of sensing we do, even if it's not integrated sensing, it's still 6G. We have a bad habit in the end. In the end, we end up at 6G is the air interface standardized by 3GPP RON. But technology-wise, clearly, there will be a lot of different kind of access methods, etc. In one day, will be kind of interacting, interoperable in some way or another. And as I said, partly done with standardization, as we have partly done with Wi-Fi versus 3GPP, versus cellular in 3GPP. And a lot of things will also be done more like de facto standardization, I think.
Yeah, just maybe to put it straight, technically, should we work already on gateways? Like if I am a customer building, I don't know, connected factory or something, I would need NTN, I would need optics, I would need... These are all going to have the label 6G, but in fact these are different technologies. So for an end user, he needs something that works end-to-end. So then the question actually technically is, shall we work on building already gateways in parallel, or this will be like integration problem that we will have to deal with later?
Maybe, so I can tell you from my experience, maybe I have worked every time for a vendor like Siemens, Nokia Siemens, and for Huawei. And Huawei delivered a turnkey project. So you can say, I want to have this, and they are in charge to test it, and it's working well. But if you're doing, maybe if you will have NTN in the ORAN environment, then you have to look for your own integrator. Then you're in charge to do it, that will work. So maybe that's a balance. What you want, if you want to save money or want to go with ORAN, with a lot of vendors, maybe the photonic from this vendor, the NTN from this vendor, and then you have to integrate it, and then nobody will guarantee that will work together. So that depends what you want. Maybe you can give all the orders to one vendor, he is in charge, you pay it, and then you have also the service for the next 2 or 3 months. This is the same like an airplane. If you buy an airplane from Airbus, then you also buy the service. So that means they have also 24 hours guarantees, or that they will repair everything.
The integration is a bigger problem.
Yeah, the integration.
Airplanes.
Yes, but the point is also if the service, if you will buy the service from a different vendor, then he cannot guarantee that because he must learn the product.
Exactly, and I would take the example you gave, like, okay, let's have ORAN with 5G NR, and just let's ask satellite vendors to plug this. It will never work, and that's why we probably need another consortium than 3GPP to work on a new radio interface. The 5G NR is there for 5G mobile network before the NTN items were introduced to 3GPP. So, and the access, as if you probably know, the access for the satellite on the ground segment is DVB. It's an ETSI standard. And 3GPP is not welcoming an ETSI standard and try to see how we can adapt it. I've been told this discussion has been on for 6 years. So the access network for existing applications, satellite applications, is DVB ETSI standard, and we would like to link all this to 5G NR and push broadband, low latency use cases on top of that. It will never work, or that's just asking the impossible to the satellite vendor. So that's why the gap I've been talking about, so having this virtualization introduced would probably allow to introduce some functions of the radio, the mobile 5G radio access network to the satellite ground segment for the access, and probably link it with the backhauling, mobile backhauling, or microwave. But just as it is, it will work. So it doesn't mean the satellite players that has joined 3GPP are giving up, but because that's where things are happening. But we for sure need to do something about the radio access network. Otherwise, this integration and the interoperability will never happen.
Yeah. There is another question.
Hi, I'm Ingrid Moerman from IMEC. I would like to jump back also to the verticals. And my question was, will 6G speed up innovation towards verticals? Because what we see in standard, we are always looking for high volumes because more revenue is expected. So the features that in the end come out are driven by the large volume consumer market, while specific features, even already standardized in previous releases and generations, like the device-to-device communication, mobile broadcast and multicast, which are highly desired for mission-critical PPDR applications, they are not getting there because these markets are much smaller. How to deal with that? Because we are always told it's a kind of economy of scale, but in the end, as just like in the IoT world, verticals are driven by application and very often customization is needed. Yeah. How will 6G address that?
I would probably start with the assumption of, okay, 6G will be the integration of mobile and space communications or air-space communications. And with this assumption, we can target what IoT, for example, has been trying to target as agriculture or tourism or transportation verticals. And because you need, because it's long distances and wide ranges, sometimes IoT technologies cannot keep up with this. So the other, like a backbone would be space for agriculture, tourism, transportation, because it can keep up with the wide range coverage. That's exactly how I see, I think we mentioned as well very, very briefly in one of the answers, that 5G had started this optimization of networks, maybe providing indoor, outdoor, enhancing the use cases for different verticals. But I really believe that 6G will open it up much wider.
It's not just a coverage problem, but you need specific features like the time sensitive, the broadcast and multicast. It's a quite obvious feature, but it is not happening because there is not sufficient volume to make it available in devices, not only in the infrastructure, but also in the radio modems.
It's not there yet, yeah, you're right. It's not happening because it's not there yet. I haven't seen any architecture for 6G that really links mobile and satellite communication networks to architectures that can really be viable to be implemented. It's not there yet. I think we need to wait for release 20.
Erik?
I mean, I'm not fully agree that it's not happening and that we should wait until 6G. I mean, it's already happening and it's happening more and more. And one thing for sure, I mean, if kind of ABB comes to us and say that we want a solution for some vertical, we can't say to them, okay, good, come back in 2030 because then we will have 6G available. We do it as good as we can now, of course. So I think it's and I think that's the way it should be done. I mean, we shouldn't really, that's why I don't really like this kind of word killer application and that specific application is for 6G. I mean, all applications typically, you don't create applications before you have the technology available. So I mean, all applications, they are typically start on the kind of technology we have right now. And then we can improve them for the next generation. So I mean, we have to do as good as we can on 5G and I mean, even on 4G. I mean, a lot of these are already on 4G. And actually, if you look at this kind of narrowband IoT and I don't know LTM is called sometimes or ETC. Those are 4G technologies. It's already happening, and it will not be this kind of thing. It will slowly grow, and then come 6G, and then in 6G we will have even better support for it, and we will use all the experience we have gained when we did this vertical for 5G, when we do 6G. So you shouldn't see it as some kind of things that happens when 6G comes.
I'm not saying that this is not happening, but I mean that the innovation cycle, it is a long cycle, and that first it is driven by mass market, and only then the specific features that are really needed for these cases, like time sensitive or features that are not needed in the consumer devices. That was the point that I wanted to make. It will come, but the question is...
What do you mean by say that the innovation, long innovation, is that the long innovation cycle on the verticals or on the kind of wireless technologies?
When the technology is available in commercial devices, also in the end devices, in the radio modems. Infrastructure is generally faster, but the end devices is generally coming up to 2 years later after. Okay.
Maybe then I can say we have launched two big associations. One is the 5GA, where we have to bring the mobile communication to the car makers worldwide. And the second one is the 5G Asia, where we have also see the chance to combine the verticals. And I have the feeling that the vertical industry, for the time being, not so much investigate in this topic. So this means We have to make a wake-up call. So now they know this, that we need a digital transformation, and they have also to ramp up the researchers which can integrate this feature that they can connect it to 5G for the time being. For the time being, they're only discussing 5G. About 6G, they will nothing know about this. But the point is, the associations are there. Maybe like Ericsson with ABB, we also discussed this also with vertical guys. But I have the feeling for the time being, they know that, but they don't know how they want to apply this and how they want to continue and how they want to make business. That is the topic.
5G Asia, we are monitoring.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Dun.
A question, we've been talking about interoperability at access level, the radio technology, etc. To what extent do we also need to look at interoperability at more like application level? When we had 2G, interoperability at service level was guaranteed.
Yep.
I can call somebody else because it's all, even the services are standardized. And you, of course, you cannot standardize everything, but now we get into problems that we have a lot of this over-the-top application model. There is a application that runs over an access, but does it work also across? Do we not have to do something there as well? I want my car, which is one application, to talk to my digital agenda, which is another application, so that my car can take into account my agenda. And the same thing with, let's say, in industry, we see one factory doing factory automation, but the factories, they work together. So things that come out of one factory go into the next, logistics. We need to also have at that level some sort of interoperability. Is there a way we're going to do something to make 6G really work for a digital society, or are we just going to leave that to somebody else?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Tone. We actually, in NGA, the Next Generation Alliance in the Americas, we actually look into this kind of question very seriously. Because we have a group of experts come from the network side, but we don't necessarily think of from the network's perspective. So we don't use the term 6G network or 6G networks. What we use is 6G systems. And the reason we say systems is because we kind of make the sub-element inside the system are applications, services. And in the services, from the wireless viewpoint, 1G to 2G is a 3x, 6x capability. 2G to 3G, then 2G, the major ones like SMS, and then you have start web meeting. And 3G, you have this video streaming. And 4G, you start doing a little bit like a wireless internet. And 5G, you have a good uplink and downlink, and then so now we see so many cute kitty pictures on internet these days because also the wireless. But when we go to 6G, if we follow this kind of train of thoughts and then try to rely on the network to dominate or to provide a service, we may run into the trouble. For example, before 6G, we're talking about, in the wireless community, we talk about 5G, 6G. Remember, there's also 5G at advanced stage. So if you look at just from this angle, just from the network evolution angle, how are you going to define the services over there? So now we're actually looking for applications, verticals, end-to-end. You check your data flow when you do the design. If from one end to the other end, the data flow is connected, the design is good. But the other one is that you check your cash flow. Cash flow, do you have enough money to start a fund your project, all the way to can you really sell it and get some money out of that? We believe that with this kind of ecosystem built up, that's how we can guarantee the success in the industry. That's what I think.
Thank you.
Very briefly that.
So we are. Oops, Mikko, you had a question.
We don't talk about it.
If there is time for that, so.
That would be the last one.
Mikko still from Nokia Bell Labs, Finland. So, question on the public acceptance of 6G. How big a problem do you think that the public acceptance has been for 5G, and how do you see what can we do to make it as good as we can with 6G?
What do you mean by public acceptance? That they are afraid of it, or that you just don't want to have it?
For example, burning down 5G base stations.
Okay. I don't think we have seen that. I mean, we haven't seen the burning of base stations public. I don't think we've seen a public problem. I mean, that's more kind of, it's difficult to deploy base stations, but that's more kind of the landowners are a little bit greedy, probably. I don't think we have seen a major problem with that, honestly. So,
that depends on the countries.
okay. Maybe Swedes do not burn so much.
Yes, you can
Just
make
burn the midsummer fire in a couple of weeks.
Yes, 24th of June you can do it.
Yeah, yes. But if I continue, it has been a problem in many places, and it's the city level. So cities are banning the use of the deployment of 5G. So it is a real problem. I see no reason the same thing to continue. So we have to be aware of that. We have to be prepared for that. The concerns of EMF are real. I talk to people and I attend all kinds of things, and more than once, like several times, there is somebody who has symptoms from electricity. It's real for them. So it is real. It is a real challenge. So, and we have to tackle that challenge, that is public acceptance. And one thing with 5G adoption is that the operators sell their product, their 5G contract. So what do they sell in that? Right now they sell a data rate. And they sell a data rate that does not exist. And that is also leading to problems from this public acceptance, that you buy something 1 gigabit per second and then you don't get it. So there are challenges for the users, those who want to use the service and they don't get what they what they're paying for, and the other part is that those who don't even want it because they feel that it is a threat to them.
Erik.
Yeah, I mean, if you come to the other aspect, I think that's very important, that we, and I think we can discuss this kind of, why sometimes people say that 4G was good, 5G was not so good, etc. I think the problem is exactly that we are kind of raising the expectations too much.
Yeah.
I remember even 3G is seen as bad. I mean, 3G was not that bad, but it was enormous expectations. And then 3G was kind of, you missed the expectations, then people didn't have so much expectations on 4G, so that's kind of big. So I think it's very important we don't blow up this kind of, people talk about 1 terabits per second. We will never have 1 terabits per second. I mean, it was a requirement in 4G that we should do 1 gigabit per second. I doubt that very many people have ever experienced 1 gigabit per second even in the 5G system in practice. So I think that's very important. We really shouldn't oversell stuff. Because then, I'm not sure the Republic, but then all the media, etc., will kind of be highly disappointed.
Yes, but for video coding, for video conference, you need high data rate, and that should be also real time. So this means you need the high data. But the other point is,
won't get it.
Yes, but the other point, Mikko, is from which group we are discussing. We have also people which are born around the 19th, that are digital natives. They never have seen the analogs, they have never problems, and so on. But because the people are changing, and all the younger people, they accept this. Yes?
I really understood the question the other way around. It's more than raising the expectation of people, but people are refusing more technology. Like they want to, I remember in France 2 years ago, like there were demonstrations saying, let's stop 5G deployment and 5G developments. So I think that was more of your question, Mikko. So I would say, and I think we're already doing this, and EuCNC is considering requirements from the users, and Orange as well is doing a good job interviewing user. I think we call them, I'm not sure of the English word for it, but it's like associations for consumers that would protect the consumers. I think if we go through them, maybe they have more information on what the consumers are expecting, what are their habits, or why they're refusing maybe more technology, and what are the age differences, etc. So where are the tendencies? It's just having those experts, as probably you were doing in Next G Alliance, but maybe in Europe we can also find the right associations that are having this data and allow us to reuse it and maybe tune our way of introducing new technology when it comes to marketing or production. Yeah.
I'm biased. Okay, yeah. I love 6G, but talking 6G, it make me look smart. Guess that when you go to a bar, you talk to the other person and say, "Oh, you're using 5G phone." "Oh, yeah, I'm also working on a 6G." Right? You probably get some free drink on that one. But on the other hand, 5G to 6G, we're hoping that it will be an evolution. It will be evolution. So don't burn down the 5G stations, right? We just keep going, keep talking about what the future may be. Let's paint a rosy picture, no matter how realistic it is. As long as people believe in it and they're thinking about they want it, then if you want it and people build it, you'll get it.
What bar is that? I want to go to that bar as well.
So thank you very much. We have reached the end of the panel, and the final countdown has reached 0. Sorry, I had to say it. And so thank you very much, and please join me in thanking the panelists. And I would like also to thank Mikko with Italo, Gustav Wikström, and Luis Correa, who have also co-organized this panel. Thank you.